Hello guys, Smart Polly here. Welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you guys how to make our own server browser for your game. We will start by making a simple main menu level and UI. Then we're going to make a server browser menu that we can add server IPs to join. This will basically be a continuation of my previous tutorial, the dedicated server. So if you haven't watched that yet, make sure you go ahead and check that out. So before we get started, 80% of you guys that watch my videos aren't subscribed, so make sure you hit that sub button, hit the bell icon as well, because you do not want to miss out some of my future videos. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. Go ahead and open up my project. Basically, this is a default third-person project in Unreal Engine 4.25, and there's pretty much nothing different about this other than the fact that we've compiled the dedicated server from the previous tutorial, and we have all that package and everything. So the first thing you want to do is go ahead and make ourselves a new level, and it will just be an empty level, and go ahead and save that to our maps and name this the main menu map. What you want to do is go ahead and just drag a plane right here, and then drag the player spawn, the player start. Scale this up a little bit. That way when the player joins the game, they won't fall into the abyss. Then we can go ahead and make a new folder in our content browser called UMG, or Unreal Motion Graphics, which is the UI editor for Unreal Engine. Go ahead and open that up. We're going to create a new user interface widget blueprint. Name this main menu widget. Make sure this is set to 1920 by 1080p. Okay, and what we want to do now is add ourselves just a simple background image. You guys can go ahead and download the project files here. And this is just basically a simple background image and a logo for our project. So we'll go ahead and drag this content into our UMG file. And then we go into our main menu widget, add a image, drag that onto the canvas panel. And under the image here, we can change that to our menu background. And drag that, scale it up here. And then what you want to do is click the anchors and make it the full screen. Compile, save that. Add another image onto the canvas panel, and then change that to our logo here. And then click size content, and then drag this and center it right about here. That's probably fine. Okay, and you can click the anchors to the top. And then what we want to do is create ourselves a simple menu box that has the join server, the options, and quick game. So go ahead and add ourselves a vertical box, drag it onto the canvas panel, add a button, drag it onto the vertical box, and then add a text to that. Okay, we can go ahead and take the vertical box here and scale it up a little bit and center it right about there. Anchor it to the bottom left. Then we can copy and paste the button 2 more times. And then make sure the button is set to fill for all of them. And we change the padding for the buttons to the top, something like 20 and 20. Then here we can do just 20 on the bottom. And for this one, we can do 20 on the bottom here. Alright, and then we'll change the text here to join server. Then right here we can change this text options, and the last one we can change this to quit game. Then we want to rename these buttons as well. Server options quit game. You also want to set your vertical box here to a variable. You can just name this menu window. Alright, and now we can go ahead and create the widget in our map. So go to your main menu map, open the blueprints, open level blueprint, event begin play, drag this off, create widget, and then change this to main menu widget, and then get player controller, drag this off, add to viewport, and then you want to drag off the player controller right here, set input to UI only, drag off the player controller one more time, and set show mouse cursor. Click the little check mark there and hook that up. File save. So when we play, you can see our widget appears here. Alright, so next up you want to create your server browser widget. Basically you just want to click a size box, drag that onto the canvas panel, and then we're going to move this right here and kind of scale it up like this. That looks about fine like that. Put the anchors to the full screen. And then what we want to add here is a border. Drag that to the size box. We can also rename the size box to server browser and make that a variable. Okay, so for our border, we click on the border and change the brush color here to a black color, and then change the alpha to 0.3 and click OK. Add a vertical box onto that border, and then in that vertical box we can add another border, and then we need to add a horizontal box onto the vertical box here. Okay, and then in our horizontal box we want to add a few buttons, so drag it onto there, then add text onto the button, and then copy paste this button. So we have 4 more of these, so paste, 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 and paste. Okay, and then for our top button, you want to rename this to region. You want to select on the text block and rename this to region. The next block right here, you want to change this to server name. And then this one right here, change that to players. Button 2, we can change that to ping. The last button text here, we can change this to status. Alright, so for our button here, we can change the padding to the left to something like 50, and then 50 on the right. Then for our server, just make sure that is set as fill. And then for the text, you want to make sure that's all centered. Okay, and for the players button right here, you want to set the left padding to 100. And then for the ping button right here, you want to set the left padding to 60. And the right padding to 15. Then for our last button, you want to select that and set the padding on the left to 80. And then to the right, 50. Okay, so that looks about good. We can compile, save that, collapse the horizontal box. Okay, and then in our vertical box, just copy and paste that in our vertical box. So we just have a little border right there. And then what you want to do is search up a vertical box, drag that right onto here, into the vertical box, and make sure it's at the bottom there, and then make sure that's set to fill. And then you want to search scroll box, and drag that onto the vertical box. Okay, so we have a scroll box, set that to fill inside the vertical box, and then we have our server description or category at the top there. So compile, save that. That looks all good. We want to add a few more buttons here at the bottom. Add a horizontal box here to the vertical box right there. And it's at the very bottom. We can add some text, or we can add a button here into the horizontal box, and then add text right onto that button. Copy and paste it 4 times. Okay, and then we can just hit fill for all of these. Alright, and for the first button here, we can change this to back button. Change the text to back. And then for this button right here, we can change this to add button, and change the text to add a server. And then the next button right here, we can change the button name to delete button, change the text to delete server, and then for the last button, we can change this to join button, and then change the text to join server. Alright, next up we want to create our server entry here that will go inside our server browser here. So go ahead and make a new user interface widget blueprint, name that server entry. Go ahead, open that up. Change this to desired on screen, and then you want to delete the canvas panel and add a size box. And then add a width and height overwrite, and the width will be 1500 and the height will be 80. Then you want to add a horizontal box onto the size box. Okay, and then you want to add a button here onto the horizontal box. Make sure that's fill. and then you want to change the normal here to a black tint with an alpha of 0.3, and then just copy and paste that for normal. And then for the hovered, you want to change the tint here to maybe something like a lighter grayish color. And then for the pressed, you can change this to like a blue color or a blue tint. So just do it like that. And we change this button to server selected. Okay, and top of that button, you're going to add a horizontal box. And then in that horizontal box, you'll just add a few buttons here. Or what you can actually go ahead and do is go back to our main menu widget here, go back to our horizontal box, expand that, select and copy all these, copy those, and then paste it right there. Then what you want to do is just make sure the text here is all centered. So select each text and just hit here horizontally align to center for each one. And then for all the buttons, you can just change the style here. Just change the opacity to 0 and then copy that and paste it for all of those. Then copy the style and paste it for each button. Okay, and then we can change this to region to NA or North America. Server name, you can leave that server name. Players, you know, it could be this to like 100 out of 100. Ping, we could change this, you know, to 20 ms. And then status, we can change this to online. So this is just default text. Doesn't really mean anything. Doesn't really mean much, but you know, if you want to see what it looks like in our main menu widget, go here onto user created and drag on our server entry, and you can drag a couple more and see what it looked like with all the servers in there. Okay, so you can go ahead and delete those. We don't need those. Now it's time to program all the back end of everything. Alright, so first things first, we can go ahead and click on our server browser right here and set our server browser to collapsed. Alright, and then we can go ahead and click on our menu window, expand that, click the join server, and scroll down, add event on clicked. Select our server browser here, drag that there, give server browser, set visibility to visible. And then what we want to do is set our menu, set the visibility to hidden, so that when we click on our join server button, it'll show the server browser and it will hide the menu. We also want to hide the logo, which I believe is just named image right here. We can change this to logo, and then go in our graph, drag it off there, set visibility to hidden. Okay, we can also add a event on clicked for our quit game. So just add event right here and then drag this off and type in quit game. Alright, then we can also set up our server browser buttons now. In our designer here, the back button right here, we can add an event on click. So when we hit back, what we want to do, just copy paste this right here, and then set the server browser to hidden, set the menu window to visible, and set the logo to visible. Alright, so we can go ahead and play test this out. When we click play and click join server, it's going to show the server menu here. Click back, it's going to show the logo back in the server menu here. When we click quit game, it'll quit the game. Next, we have to create a few variables here for our back end. So what we want to go ahead and do is go to our content browser, make a new folder, name this blueprints. Go ahead and open that up. We can go ahead, right click, make a new blueprint enumeration, and we can name this our region enum. Add 4 of these right here, just click the new button. Then we can name this to NA for North America, EU for Europe, and then OC for Oceanic, and then Asia. Okay, save that. Okay, and then what we can go ahead and do is right here, add blueprints, and then add a structure. Okay, this will basically help us store all the variables for our server, such as the IP, the region, the name. Nice and neat structure, so we can store that in the little array. So go ahead and name this to server struct. structure. Okay, open that up. The first variable here is going to be region, and that's going to be the region enumeration that we just created. Okay, add a few more variables here. And the next one will be server name. That will be a string. Next one will be server IP. That will be text and text. Then we want players here, and that will be integer. Okay, add a couple more. We'll have ping, that will also be an integer. And then status, that can just be a boolean, online or offline. Okay, all right, and then default values here. Set that to localhost. Players, you can just set this to 100. Ping, you can set this to 20. Status is online, so save that. So go ahead and close that. Then what you want to do here is right click, add a blueprint class here, and then search game instance. Okay, just like that. Create my game instance. Open that, add a new variable here. I'm gonna change this to our server structure. And then you want to just click on here and change that to an array. So we're going to name this server data. All right. So basically, when we add an array here, this will be all our server information. So we can set our region here. It'd be like if you were to add your own server to your little server browser here. You just add an entry or an array element, set the region, the name of the server you want, the IP, the players, the ping, and make sure this variable is public, and then also expose on spawn. Compile, save that. All right, and then we can go over here, go to our graph. We can go ahead and add a function just to make things nice. Name this load servers. Okay, so what you want to do is get game instance, cast to my game instance, connect that up right there. And then drag this off right here, get server data for each loop with break. Hook this up right here. The loop body, you want to drag this off and create widget. Name this to server entry. Array element, you want to break server structure. Okay, just like that. Here, get region text. And then set text right there, and then connect that up. And then for the region text, you can just or to text byte right there and hook that up into there, and then drag this off right here. Get server name text, and then set text to the server name here, so we can just drag that in. Okay, then you want to get players text, and then set text, and then drag the players in here, and it will convert automatically to a string or to text. I'm gonna drag off here for ping, get ping text, and then set the text to the ping here, and again it will automatically convert, and then finally we can get status text, and then set text, and drag off our status here into the text, and it will change our boolean to our status, which will tell us true or false if it's online or not. Server entry that you have here in your game instance data or your save data, it will create a widget or server element widget with all the information in this loop, and then we'll break out of it. Okay, one more thing that we want to add here is the server IP. Okay, so we can go ahead and add a variable real quick in our server entry that we forgot to do. In our graph, we can click right here, add a new variable, change this to a text, and name this server IP. Okay, and then just make sure that you click instance editable and expose on spawn, compile, save that. Okay, and then type in set server IP. Okay, and you can hook that up here at the very end, and then hook up server IP to server IP. Okay, and then hook that to the break. Alright, so for each entry, it'll assign a server IP to that entry, which we will call later when we join our server. Okay, and so at the very end of this, also we have to add this to our parent, which is our scroll box right here, our server entries. So if we make sure that's a variable, go back into our graph and into our load servers function. We want to select our server entry scroll box, get that, add child. The child being the return value off here. Add that to the very end. And hook the very end here to the break. Alright, so now we just have to call our function here, our load servers function. So when you click the join servers, you want to scroll up here and then call the load servers function. You want to add your game instance to your project, so just click edit project settings, search game instance, and change your game instance to my game instance, or the one that we have our server data here. Go ahead and close that. Now when we click play here, click join server, we can see that it creates our server data here that's saved in our game instance right here. Now let's go ahead and set up our join server button. Okay, so we just have to add one more line of code here for that to work. Go into our server entry, go to our graph here. For your server selected, add on clicked. Okay, so you just want to drag off here and get game instance, cast to my game instance. Drag this off right here. Go ahead and make a new variable in your game instance. Just name this server selected. Make that exposed, and expose on spawn, instance editable, change that to text, and change it to a normal variable, compile, save that, and then drag off here, set server selected, and change that to your server IP right here. So when you click on the button server selected, it's going to cast your game instance and set the variable right here to the server IP. So then we can go back in our main menu widget here, and under our event graph, we can add a join server right here button, or join button, execute console command. Then we also want to get game instance, cast to my game instance, get servers selected, and then we want to format that. Add a pin here, and name this open, and then in squiggly brackets there, you want to IP, the server selected into the IP, and hook the result into the command here. Okay, so basically when you click the join button, it's going to cast to your game instance and get the server selected, which is just IP. It's going to format the text and say open, and then the IP, which is the command right here. It's going to execute that as a console command. So go to your content, maps, server map, and then open up blueprints, open up level blueprint, event begin play, set game, and put game only. And then get player controller. And then when you play the game, you'll set your game mode to input only. Also, I'm going to change our game instance. So your server data right here, you change this IP to your IP address. So I'm going to go ahead and change that real quick. Okay, compile, save that. Before we pack our game, you just want to go to edit, project settings, and change our maps and modes. Change the default game map to our main menu map. Very important, because you want it to load the main menu as a default map. Okay, so now we can go ahead and file, package project, Win64, same folder as last time, and we'll just wait for that. Alright, so the packing is complete. We can go ahead and close that. And then if we open up our package game right here. Go to my project, binaries, Win64, and run the server. Again, if you don't have this, you have to follow the dedicated server tutorial that I made on how to compile your own dedicated server. But you don't have to redo it. As long as you did it, I think once, it should be fine. So go ahead and run that. Alright, then we can go ahead and run our project. And you see it opens up the main menu as the default map. When you click join server, it's going to show our test server right here. Alright guys, so I loaded up the newly packaged game onto a USB, hooked it up to my laptop. You can see here my laptop's again connected to a mobile hotspot, so to simulate being on a different network, and then we can go ahead and run the standalone game. As you can see, it opens up the main menu map, so click join server. We're going to see our server entry. You can click on the server, and then we can click join at the bottom right. And then over on our dedicated server here, you can see it update with the yellow text here that we joined. So you can see here that we can easily assign, a UI to, a server infrastructure or server to a server browser. Anyways guys, I'm going to wrap the tutorial up here. Hopefully it didn't go too long. I might have to show you guys in another tutorial how to add a server to your server array there, or to delete a server. So anyways guys, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you guys leave a like. Please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one.